I never thought I'd be the kind of person to tell a story like this. For most of my life, I relied solely on logic, on what I could see, touch, and prove. The idea of a spiritual experience, or anything that couldn't be measured by science, seemed like fantasy. I didn't believe in miracles. I didn't believe in divine intervention. And I definitely didn't believe in life after death. But what happened to me changed everything. Not just my beliefs, but the very core of who I am. From as far back as I can remember, I was always the type of person who needed to be strong. I didn't allow myself to show weakness, and I certainly didn't trust others to take care of me. My mother raised me on her own after my father walked out, and that event shaped me more than I realized. She would tell me constantly, "Don't ever depend on a man. They'll always let you down." At the time, I thought she was just angry, but over the years, those words carved themselves into my belief system. I wore them like armor. As a teenager, I began to distance myself from anything that reminded me of vulnerability or attachment. I associated femininity with weakness and masculinity with betrayal. Somewhere along the way, I decided that if I could just live life independently, I wouldn't need anyone. Not emotionally, not physically. That belief made me proud. I became self-sufficient in every area of life, from fixing things around the house to making tough decisions without input from others. I was determined to never ask for help. Ever. My relationships were shallow and short-lived. I had convinced myself that love was a trap, a vulnerability I couldn't afford. Whenever someone got too close, I found ways to sabotage the connection. I couldn't admit it at the time, but deep down I was terrified. Terrified of being left, of being hurt the way my mother was. It was easier to reject before being rejected. This mindset didn't just affect romantic relationships, it affected friendships, work dynamics, even how I saw myself in the mirror. I built my identity around strength, around control, around not needing anyone, and that identity became a cage. On the outside, I looked like someone who had it all together. People respected my independence, admired my resilience, but inside, I was exhausted. The walls I built to protect myself were keeping me isolated. Still, I pressed on, convincing myself this was the only way to survive. I couldn't afford to feel. I couldn't afford to trust. I couldn't afford to hope for something better. Over the years, I began to notice a numbness settling in. Not just emotional, but spiritual. I didn't believe in God. Not really. I thought religion was a crutch, something people used to make sense of the world when they couldn't face the truth. I dismissed anyone who talked about faith or miracles. And whenever someone mentioned Jesus, I rolled my eyes. I thought I was above all that. I thought I was enlightened. But the truth was, I was scared. Scared that if any of it were true, I'd have to face everything I'd been running from. I masked that fear with sarcasm, with cynicism. I surrounded myself with people who thought like me, believed like me, or at least didn't challenge me. I avoided deep conversations. I avoided silence. I kept myself busy with work, with goals, with distractions. Anything that would keep me from having to look too closely at my own soul. I didn't know it then, but I was building my life on a foundation of fear. And sooner or later, that foundation would crack. Looking back now, I realized just how lost I was. I wasn't living. I was surviving, functioning on autopilot, numbing myself to the pain I refused to acknowledge. I thought I was protecting myself, but I was actually depriving myself of the very things I craved most: love, connection, peace. And then one night, everything changed. Not gradually, not subtly, but in one terrifying, undeniable moment that would tear down every wall I had ever built. The night it happened started off like any other. I was home alone, winding down after a long day, trying to distract myself with small chores. The porch light had burned out, and I instinctively grabbed the ladder to replace it. I had done it 100 times before. There was no hesitation, no second thoughts, just the usual sense of self-reliance, that I don't need help mentality guiding my every move. As I climbed up and reached out with the new bulb in hand, I felt a sudden shift, a moment of imbalance. It was barely noticeable, just a slight wobble, but that was all it took. My foot slipped, and then came the fall. It wasn't slow. It wasn't graceful. It was instant. The impact was violent. I remember the sound of my body hitting the floor, the sharp crack of something inside me. Then darkness. Cold, consuming darkness. At first I didn't realize I was no longer in my body. It felt like a dream. I was there, but not there. Conscious, but detached. I could see everything around me, including myself lying motionless on the ground. That moment shook me in a way I can't describe. There was my body, lifeless, pale, still. I screamed, but no sound came out. I tried to move, to touch something, anything, but I was like mist. I passed through everything I reached for. The panic started to set in. Was I dead? Was this some kind of twisted hallucination? The silence was heavy, deafening, and then, just as suddenly, the scene shifted. I was no longer at home. I was in a void, a black, empty space with no walls, no floor, no direction, only silence, and a presence I couldn't see but could feel watching me. It was in that emptiness that the voices began. Whispers at first, unclear, unintelligible, but they grew louder, more focused, and they were speaking about me, my past, my denial, my pride. She never believed, one said. She closed her heart, said another. I froze. These voices knew me. They knew my thoughts, my fears, my secrets. It felt like being completely exposed under a light that illuminated not my skin, but my soul. I wanted to run, but there was nowhere to go. I was floating in place, helpless. Then, just when the fear became unbearable, I saw something in the distance, a point of light. Small at first, but growing, moving toward me. And with it came warmth. Not heat, but comfort, peace. For the first time since falling, I felt something other than fear. I felt drawn to it. As the light grew closer, the darkness around me began to retreat. The whispers faded. My heart, or whatever I had in that moment, beat faster. The light wasn't just a source of energy. It was alive. It radiated something pure, something I didn't recognize but instinctively trusted. And then I saw him. Not with physical eyes, but with every part of my being. A figure emerged from the light, not blinding, not overwhelming, but majestic, loving, powerful. I knew without needing to ask who it was. Jesus, the very name I had spent most of my life avoiding, doubting, dismissing. But in that moment, all of my skepticism, all of my logic, all of my pride collapsed. Because here he was, real, present, and he knew me. Not just my name, but every part of who I was. He didn't speak at first, but his eyes, those eyes, looked straight through me. There was no judgment in them, only love. Unfiltered, overwhelming love. I wanted to speak, to apologize, to confess, but my voice failed me. I fell to my knees weeping, not from fear, but from the sheer intensity of being seen, truly seen, for the first time in my life. All the masks I had worn, all the layers I had built, crumbled in his presence. I saw flashes of my life, moments I was proud of, moments I was ashamed of, and in each one, he was there, watching, waiting, loving me anyway. I couldn't understand it. How could someone so holy love someone like me? Someone who had rejected him, mocked him, denied him. But he did, and I felt it. Then images began to appear around me, vivid, undeniable. It was like watching a movie of my own life, but with a perspective I had never known. I saw my childhood through new eyes, my mother's pain, my own fears. I saw the walls I had built to survive, and the lies I believed to maintain them. I saw moments where kindness was offered by strangers, especially men I had subconsciously dismissed. Small, quiet acts of care I never noticed. A neighbor helping, a teacher encouraging, a boss showing mercy. And I realized I had been blinded by the trauma of abandonment, by the bitterness I clung to like a shield. And now, I couldn't look away. Jesus was showing me not to condemn, but to heal, to open my eyes. And with every image, my heart broke a little more. In the breaking, it began to soften. Then came the most painful vision of all. My father, sitting alone, older, worn by guilt, crying. I wanted to look away. My instinct screamed that he didn't deserve my sympathy. He left. He caused everything. But Jesus was beside me, gently holding my hand, not forcing me, but inviting me. Forgive, he said. The word echoed not just in the space, but inside my soul. It was not a command. It was a key to a prison I didn't know I was in. I wept harder. All my anger, all my pain. Suddenly they felt so heavy. I had carried them for so long, too long, and in that moment, I realized something I never thought possible. Forgiveness wasn't about freeing him. It was about freeing me. And when I spoke the words, "I forgive him," I felt chains I didn't know existed fall off me. As soon as I spoke those words I had never imagined saying, something shifted inside me. It wasn't a feeling. It was a release. Like something dark and knotted inside had finally unraveled. My chest felt lighter, my mind clearer. I turned to Jesus, and he smiled. Not the kind of smile you see in pictures, but a smile that radiated healing. He reached out, and when his hand touched mine, I felt what I can only describe as pure life. Peace flooded through me, a peace I had never tasted before. It wasn't just emotional, it was spiritual, cellular, foundational. For the first time in my existence, I knew what wholeness felt like. All the years of holding on to pain, of defining myself by wounds, they were gone. He had removed them with a single act of grace, but he wasn't finished. He looked at me again, and I felt another wave of truth pressing in, gently but firmly, like a surgeon preparing for the next incision. And then I heard his voice, inside, everywhere, speak words that pierced deeper than any before. "You never chose your path out of love," he said. "You chose it out of fear." My breath caught. I didn't want to admit it, but I couldn't deny it either. He showed me memories, not of abuse, not of trauma from men, but of moments where I pushed away the idea of love because I didn't want to be vulnerable. I saw myself choosing independence, not because it made me happy, but because it gave me control. And control, I had believed, meant safety. But that safety had come at a cost, a steep one. The truth hit hard. I thought I knew who I was. I believed my identity was set in stone, unchangeable. But Jesus was showing me a deeper layer. That identity, as strong as it appeared, was a mask, a survival mechanism, built from wounds, sustained by fear. And I knew in that moment that he wasn't trying to erase me. He was trying to reveal me, the real me, the version of myself I had buried under years of pride and protection. I wasn't created to live in fear. I wasn't made to carry resentment. I wasn't designed to exist behind emotional armor. And as he continued to speak, it became clear. My identity wasn't something I had to invent. It was something I had to surrender to. It already existed. In him. I just had to be willing to lay mine down to receive it. That was the real choice. Not about who I loved or how I lived, but about whether I would finally trust someone other than myself. Whether I would allow myself to believe that there was a plan for me, bigger than survival, deeper than pain, more eternal than the wounds I carried. He held out his hand again. "You can keep walking the road you've always known," he said, "or you can follow me." It was simple, but it wasn't easy. I thought of everything I'd have to leave behind. The labels, the beliefs, the people who knew me a certain way. I thought of how they'd respond if I changed, if I told them this story, if I told them what I saw. But then I looked into his eyes again, and I knew I couldn't go back. Not after what I had seen, not after what I had felt. I chose him. The moment I said yes, I felt something inside me break and mend at the same time, like chains snapping and light pouring into the spaces they once occupied. The light around him intensified, not blinding, but illuminating. It wrapped around me like a robe. I felt secure, seen, new. And then he said something I didn't expect. "It's not time yet. There's still something you need to do." Before I could ask what, everything around me began to fade. The light dimmed. The peace receded. Not painfully, but with purpose. I was being sent back to the world I had come from, back to the body I had left behind. And just before I was pulled from that holy space, I heard him say one last thing, something that would anchor me for the rest of my life. "Tell them." I woke up gasping. My lungs burned. My body ached. My mind raced to comprehend what had just happened. I was in a hospital bed. Machines beeped. Nurses scrambled. A doctor leaned over me with disbelief in his eyes. "You were gone," he said. 8 minutes. Clinically dead. But I wasn't the same woman they had tried to revive. Something inside me had changed completely. I felt it in my chest. I felt it in my soul. I had been somewhere else. I had seen something no words could fully explain. I had met someone no argument could disprove. I tried to speak, but my voice was weak. I tried to sit up, but my body trembled. And yet, even through the pain, I knew I had been given a second chance. Not just at life, but at truth. Leaving the hospital was surreal. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt the same. The world moved on around me, but I had been rewired. People visited me, asked how I was doing, but I didn't know how to answer. How do you explain something like that? How do you tell people that you met Jesus, that he showed you everything about yourself and offered you a new path? They'd think I was crazy. Some did, but I couldn't stay silent. The truth burned inside me. Every time I tried to suppress it, it rose up stronger. I had been given a mission, a voice, a story. I began to share in small ways at first, a conversation here, a journal entry there. And every time I spoke it aloud, it became more real, not just to me, but to those who heard it. Healing began, slowly, but surely, one soul at a time. I've shared this story, not because it's easy to tell, but because it's too important to stay silent. I died. I saw Jesus. And he gave me a second chance, not just to live, but to live differently. My identity, my choices, my pain, all of it was laid bare before him. And instead of judgment, I received grace. Instead of rejection, I received love. This wasn't just a moment of awakening. It was a complete rebirth. The life I had before is gone. What I carry now is truth, peace, and purpose. And I want you to know, this isn't just my story. This can be yours too. If you're carrying pain from your past, if you've built your life on fear, control, or survival, if you've ever questioned your worth or identity, know that you're not alone. I've been there. I've lived it. And I've discovered that real healing begins the moment we surrender. Jesus didn't come to shame us. He came to set us free. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't need to be perfect. All he asks is that you come as you are and trust him with the rest. He already knows your heart. He's waiting for your yes. So now, I invite you, don't let this just be another video you watched. Let it be a turning point. Open your heart. Ask the questions you've been afraid to ask. And most importantly, seek the one who has the answers. He is real. He is near. And he is calling you by name. If you've ever felt that whisper deep in your soul, that there's more to life than what you see, it's because there is. You were created for something greater, for truth, for redemption, for love. Inscreva-se no canal e siga Jesus. Don't wait. Don't delay the freedom you were meant to live in. Turn to him now. Share this story with someone who needs it. Comment below if this message spoke to you. Your words might be the breakthrough someone else is praying for. And if you're ready to take the next step, say it aloud. Write it in the comments. I choose Jesus. Let this be your moment. Let this be your day of change. More stories like this are coming. Stories that heal. Stories that challenge. Stories that transform. So stay connected. Stay open. And stay expectant. The journey doesn't end here. It's only just beginning. Make sure you turn on notifications so you never miss another word that could change your life. And if you're looking for community, this is it. You're not just a viewer. You're part of a family now. A family of seekers, of survivors, of believers. If you've walked through darkness, if you've stood at the edge of yourself and wondered if there's any way back, there is. His name is Jesus. He found me when I was lost. He brought me back when I was dead. And now, I will spend the rest of my life pointing others to the light I saw. This testimony isn't just mine. It belongs to everyone who's ever felt like there's no way out. There is, and you're closer than you think. All you have to do is open your heart. Thank you for walking through this story with me. Thank you for listening, not just with your ears, but with your spirit. I don't take it lightly. I see you. I believe in your journey. And I'm praying that you'll experience the same freedom and truth that I found. This space is safe. This community is growing. And you are welcome here. I hope you'll stay with us as we continue to share real stories, raw faith, and the kind of truth that breaks chains. Until next time, walk in grace, live in freedom, and never stop seeking. See you soon.